new website that launched last January, and we've been doing a lot of marketing efforts to prove the model, to see what's working, what's driving leads and sales and revenue, all those kinds of things. So we're going today kind of just to show you what's working, what's not working, what should you avoid, what you should be doing, and just how that you can go about to, for your own personal companies, to start increasing leads and sales and all those kinds of things. So we're going to be talking about purely digital today, and optimizing your digital presence. But before I get started, just real quick, so I know we have Fullington here. Who else do we have as far as companies? Dean? Marks?
Excursions.
Fullington, two Fullingtons, okay.
Via.
Via, so we just had her, okay, so are you Bianca?
No, Bianca's back.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm Denise.
Denise, okay, nice to meet you. We use a lot of your examples here. I just forwarded the email to, I'm sorry. Geneva, so I can forward that report to you that we give to Curtis, so you can see. So after they come up to me, okay?
Great.
I'm a Trailways.
Okay, I got you.
Aries,
and we do a little bit with you guys as well. Dean, okay, so you all right, so long story short, we want to give you guys a feel for what's working, what's not working, what you can apply to your businesses, what programs are offered by Trailways, and all those kinds of things. And a lot of this is we want to show you where you should be focusing your efforts, how much you should be spending, and what are the goals, right? The end goal is to drive more business. But if you have certain campaigns that just aren't doing things that you wanted to do, then maybe it's time to move those budgets around, things like that. So those are the kind of things we're going to get into today. I do not have an hour's worth of content, so please, we had a lot of questions, so ask me a lot of questions so we can make this thing go for the full thing. I got about 13 slides and that's it. And I talk fast, so that's 13 minutes.
we like that.
I got the highway to hit after this. So one of the things I want to say to you is like, beware of this guy, right? Because what happens is these guys will call you nonstop the minute they feel like you are a company that's doing digital. They'll say, hey, you've got to be doing banner advertising, and you've got to be on Snapchat, and you've got to be doing Facebook, and all these things. And I'm not saying all these things are wrong, but my point is these guys will come hard, and they won't tell you what's working, not working. They're just trying to get you to sign the dotted line. I have a Pro painter, his name's Richard Weber. He's in Morristown, New Jersey, and he called me up. He's been with me for years, 4 or 5 years. And he called me up one day and said, hey, Mark, I just want you to know I signed up for this program. I said, all right, Rich, what is it? I don't know. He had no idea. I said, well, how much was it? $2,000 a month for 3 months. He said, the guy was slick. It sounded like it was pretty cool. Until can you talk to him? I said, did you already sign up for this? Yeah. I said, hey, get your credit card out of it, back out of the whole thing, and let's see what it was. It was a terrible program he signed him up for. Well, my point is, these guys will push you hard. And I'm not saying you don't want to test things, but $2,000 a month for 3 months, I'd rather have you test $200 a month for 3 months and see if it works, right? So the nice thing is you have corporate to lean on and say, hey, listen, we got paid for this. Is this something that's working up at the top level? Should we implement it? They can either tell you, no, we tried it, it doesn't work, or let's get Mark on the phone and let's see. You have people you can lean on to ask these questions. And if you want to test something, I am all about testing. That's why we're here. We test things we know works. It doesn't work. But don't go spend a whole lot of money on stuff you don't understand and then just realize they just waste a whole crap load of money because everybody knows someone who's like, hey, my neighbor's kid just went to college. He knows all this stuff. No, they don't. No, they don't. Trust me. There's just so much crap out there. New and shiny does not equal success. I say that all the time. Just because it's cool doesn't mean it's work. Facebook's okay. It has its place. Yelp is awful. Yelp advertising, they will push you hard. They will push you hard. I'm not saying don't have a Yelp listing. I'm talking about Yelp advertising. It just doesn't work well. And again, I could be wrong in Alabama versus Montana versus Alaska versus Florida. It can vary by any area, so testing is fine. But just beware of that guy and know you have people who you can ask to and go to for these kinds of questions. Okay. So if we would have had a conversation about 4 or 5 years ago and you said, Mark, I have $1,000 to spend on digital marketing, where should I spend it? I would have said, go put it all in a search, paid and organic. I'll break this down a little bit in a minute, but think about search. I almost have an unfair advantage over every other marketing channel because I can sit back and let you come to me. You're two-thirds or you're a pipe burst in your basement, you're going to your phone or your laptop or your mobile device and typing in emergency plumber, emergency dentist, right? You're coming to me. I just have to be there. Whereas if you're driving down 95 and see an ad for a dentist, you're not thinking about going to the dentist. Hell, you probably don't even want to go to the dentist. I don't. So the point is, you're not in buy mode. But in search, you're in buy mode. So why wouldn't you want to be in front of people who are in buy mode at all times? Now, again, 4 years ago, I would have said, just put it all in search and be done with it. That's your budget. But now you have all these other things, lead gen referral sites like Yelp and AngelList and all these things, and Facebook and remarketing and banner ads and YouTube and display advertising and any other thing you can think of, Snapchat, whatever all these things are, Instagram. I'm not saying that you should not do these things or test them, but if you came to me and said, hey, I just put $3,000 into Instagram and your paid search budget is $0 or $100, something's out of whack. Because Instagram is people looking for charter buses. They are on Google. Not saying you can't get leads from Instagram. I don't know. We haven't tested it, but we can test it small. But I'd rather see that 900, 100 versus 100, 900. You see what I'm saying? Something's out of whack there. So I still think the bulk of your digital advertising budget should be on paid or organic search, people looking for you. But if you want to test these things, 5% here, 10% here, or whatever, and see if they work in your market, that's fine. Again, I will say this though, everything you do in the digital world or on the non-digital world still helps me. Because here's what happens. If you go and type in, sneakers, and you see Nike, Adidas, Converse, and then you see Joe's Sneaks, you're more likely to click on Nike, Adidas, or Converse because you heard of them, all the branding over the years, things like that. So all those things you do offline or branding-wise, they do help search, right? It all kind of interacts. So when people do radio, search volume goes up. More people are clicking on the search ads and things. So I'm not saying don't do other things. My point is though, it's just if you're doing radio and not this, something's wrong. If you're doing direct mail and not this, something's wrong. Direct mail is 35 grand. This is 320 bucks, right? So that's my point. So again, you can diversify all your other digital efforts. It's like what you learned in school, the 4 Ps, right? And then the marketing mix and all those things. But you still should have the majority in search when people are looking for you. Because if they're looking for you, you want to be there. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions on that?
What are the 4 Ps?
I forget, you're gonna make me do that. Her, place, person. There's 2 more.
You can't say it.
I'm not a finance degree, not a marketing degree. I meant to say your marketing mix. Yeah. Person, I don't know. I'll look it up later.
It's product, place, price, promotion.
Thank you. There you go. There you go. First person who ever called me out on that.
Use an acronym, I don't know. I'm not shy. I'm going to ask you what it is.
Okay, so some of you may know this or not, but let's do a quick 101 on what a search result looks like, just so you guys understand when I start throwing out terms like SEO and PPC and all these things, acronyms. These I know, all right? These are what I go. So if someone types in, this is Via, this is actually you, if someone types in Tempe Charter Bus, there's 3 ways to be found in the search results, okay? The first one are paid ads, and you see this little green box that says ad next to them. So before I go into the dynamics of this, think of this as a phone book. And these are your white page listings. They don't cost anything to be there, not charging you to be there, or anything like that. And think of that as almost the yellow pages, like the AAA locksmith. You're paying to be there, right? So that's Google's version of the phone book. If someone types in Tempe Charter Bus, work for Curtis, we're paying to be in that spot. I'll get into the dynamics in a minute, but that's paid. Under here, these are called organic listings, and they're free, but there's 2 versions of it. There's the map listings. So when you Google coffee shop or pizza shop, we're going to see coffee shops and Panera Bread and all these things out here in Fairfax. You didn't type in Fairfax, you just typed in coffee shop. Google knows you're in Fairfax right now. They know your phone, Big Brother's watching, even if I do it from my laptop, based on your IP address, right? So in order for you to show here, you actually have to have a physical location in Tempe, in Fairfax. Meaning if you serve the Northern Virginia area, and you'll go anywhere in Northern Virginia, but your actual office is located in Reston, you won't show here unless they do a search with the term Reston in it, or if they're in Reston when they search. So in order to show here, you have to have the actual physical address. You guys in Via have 3, right? Merced, Tempe, and Fresno, right? So in those searches, you'll show up, but you may not show up in Phoenix in this section because you don't have a Phoenix address, right? Again, but once you do that, we mail the postcard like we did for me and do all the verifications and things like that. But we do work to get you there, but my point is you only show there if you're in that physical location. Down here is the organic listings. And I'll elaborate a little bit more in a minute, but again, in order for us to show up for Tempe Charter Bus, we had to go onto Curtis's site, and his homepage is via Trailways. But we had to make a page for Tempe for him to show up. We have to make a page for New York City to show up, Philadelphia, Fairfax, whatever it is. So, and I'll get to this slide in a minute. If you have 20 towns you want to service, we're going to have to make 20 pages, if that makes sense. We'll get a little bit more of the details. But my point is, when someone does a search for Tempe Charter Bus, it's hard to miss Curtis right now, right? We're in the paid section of maps and the Google listings. And that's the ultimate goal. This is where SEO, search engine optimization, other times known as organic search, combined with paying to be there. So Curtis has an $800 budget to paid search, and then he has us working on the organic stuff as well at the same time. That makes sense to everybody? I'll break these out in a minute, but just the overall lay of the land, okay?
So to show up in Phoenix, you have to be...
You would probably be here and here. You won't be here because you don't have a physical address in Phoenix, but we'll have a page for Phoenix, and I'll get into this, but we'll have a page for the zoo and all those other kinds of things. There's one thing I wanted to say. oh, the only time this differs is if, let's say, you sell sofas. In the case of sofas, you're going to see, let's just do one real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. And any product, I'm just using sofas as an example. But you'll see these guys too. Oh, that's an app, sorry. That's a You'll see these kinds of things. So you'll see a sofa shop, so it knows we're not, I guess there's actually Fairfax Boulevard, that's the closest thing. It knows, I didn't type in sofas Fairfax, but it pulled me in there, right? And then there's the paid ads for Wayfair, and then if I scroll down, there's going to be organic listings, just like I showed you here. But the fourth time when you have a product, this is just for your knowledge, there's these ads as well. These are also paid search ads, but they're just with pictures and images. So when you go buy fishing rods, sofas, whatever the case may be, that's what you see, right?
So on that first page, when you said to be in a different city, that you don't need to put an address in, so then you build a page for that specific city.
Right. So we'll get 2 out of 3.
Okay.
Right? So if you say, listen, I serve the 5 boroughs of New York, but you only have an office in Brooklyn, well, how do we show up for Manhattan? We'll have to build out a page for Manhattan.
Okay.
All right, but unfortunately you
It'll
can't.
never show up on the map, or because
Not unless you have a physical address. So here's what happened is, a plumber says, well, I service the 5 boroughs. So he'll go buy a post office box in all 5 boroughs that have an address to show up there. And then Google said, oh, no more P.O. boxes. And he said, okay, well, I'll go get a UPS address and do it in a strip mall. Nope, they shut that down. Now, so far as lawyers are going and sharing offices with each other, they'll call their buddy who has an office in Manhattan and say, hey, can I share my office and use that? So if there's 2 addresses of the same business, they're flagging them as well. So people are trying to game the system left and right. It works for a while, and then it gets eventually tacky.
But you could build a page like that.
That's the reason we do that, exactly. Yeah. Okay, I'll show some more examples of this, but yes, absolutely why. Okay, I'm going to talk about paid search for a little bit. There were the ads at the top, just so you guys can see what's going on. So corporate has, since May, has spent May through, I want to say yesterday, either October 31st or yesterday, but long story short, they spent $18,000 on paid search, those ads up top, across the country. And we're not talking the entire country, we're talking the country where we actually have Trailways partners in there. So I don't think we have Alaska Ray or something like that. I mean,
Not yet.
yeah, not yet, okay. So for that $18,000, we had $6,300 come, 6,300 people come to the website since May. Great, who cares? Because the bottom line is, we can't pay the bills with 6,300 visitors. We need to pay the bills with revenue leads. So here's the important part. Out of those 6,300 people that came, 811 filled out that form. You guys familiar with the form on the homepage of Trailways? So 811 filled out the lead form for the charter bus on the homepage, which then got distributed to wherever area we're targeting. So when we look at our cost per lead, it costs us $23 for each one of those 811 people. So I talked to a couple different people in the first thing. Anybody know their conversion rate from lead to sale for their business? She said yours was about 50 to 60%. So we have 50% of people who call us over the form, you convert at half. Okay, anybody have any idea what theirs is? Now some people think what's yours.
40% for specifically for that.
Okay, so 40%. So
For
if you're
Trailways only?
Huh?
Through the portal?
This is just through the portal. This is not through the, now phone calls are bonus. Okay? So let's say it's 40%. Let's just be conservative and say it's 25%. If your cost per lead is $25, then your cost per acquisition is $100, right? Because you're converting 25% of that. Or if your cost per lead is 40 or 50%, well then your cost per acquisition is 50 to 60 bucks. So you can back into the math. So then you have to determine, okay, is the value of a customer $100 work for me? Let's pretend it did. You need a $50 cost per acquisition cost per customer. Then we need to cut that lead flow in half. We may cut the lead flow in half. We need to cut the cost per lead. I'm just moving dials, right? So I'm trying to figure out what's the best. How much leads can we get at a certain cost per lead? If that cost per lead was $200, this ain't working, right? It's just too high. But $23 for right now, I think is acceptable based on what we're hearing. And remember, for every form lead you get on a given day, how many phone calls is it? Even? Like, hey, I get 5 phone leads and I get 5 form leads, or is it more proportionally the other way? Like, what do you guys think it is? If you had to guess.
I would love to know that.
I think it's more online.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, so let's pretend if you get 10 form leads a day, let's pretend, right? You're saying you would probably get another 2 or 3 calls? Is that fair to say? So in that case, then your cost per lead maybe goes down to $20, $18, something like that. So you can back to that, yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding that. So you're actually probably getting more leads from the site than you are phone calls? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Oh, well, specifically, are we talking
Yeah,
phone calls
yeah,
from
yeah.
Trailways?
Yes,
That would be
yes.
referred
Oh,
to.
okay, from,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Overall might be different.
Okay,
Right, right.
okay.
I'm just saying specifically from these kinds of efforts. Yeah. So if you had 800 form leads, you're probably looking at about 1,000 total leads across the country. Maybe higher, but that's kind of what we get. So my point is, for a national campaign, cost per lead $23, maybe 20 based on phone calls. Conversion rate maybe anywhere from 25 to 50%, in some cases lower, some cases higher. I will say this, we had this conversation in the last meeting. Let's pretend your overall conversion rate is 25%, from lead to sale, 25%. It may vary by channel. Your conversion rate on search may be 35%, your conversion rate on Yellow Pages might be 15%, or Yelp, or direct mail, whatever, it may vary. So when you're looking at this, because again, this is kind of what I alluded to in the beginning, it's unfair. These people came looking for me. On Facebook, I'm in front of them, on a billboard, I'm in front of them, maybe they're thinking about it, but here they finally are ready to make the decision. So I have to imagine that the conversion rate from a Google search lead may be a little bit higher than some of the other channels. Again, it could be unfair advantage, or fair, however you want to spin it. That being said, we'll take a look at Curtis. Now, Curtis is, the spend's a little bit of the same, but this has been running for a year and a half. So on a per month, he's spending, $800 to $1,000 per month. So I'll call that a medium-sized campaign with very similar results. Cost per lead is slightly higher, maybe it's more competitive, maybe there's different times of year, but still, $30 cost per lead, almost 500 leads over the course of a year and a half. So while they're spending thousands and he's spending hundreds, you can still get this to work. Then you take it down to even a small campaign. Salter's been running about $100 a month for roughly 6.5 months, right? Even then, even though they're not spending a lot of money, 25 leads, still a pretty good cost per lead, still in that range. So what I point to this slide is it's not so much whether it's big, medium, or large. You can go big, you can go medium, you can go small, but you can still get it to work, right? And you can test this. Right now they're in a testing phase and we're trying to see if they want to ramp up. Curtis, varies his budget based on drivers and all those kinds of things and time of year. But all that being said, it's really how much you want to spend. Now, if Curtis comes to me and says, here's $1 million, I'm probably not going to be able to spend on any given month. He's at 800 now. Maybe he could spend 900,000, but in his area, there's a law of diminishing returns and there's a cap on supply and demand. I can only spend so much money in so much area. So even if he had an unlimited budget, his numbers wouldn't be that far off. These guys could probably definitely spend more. But my point is, whether the results are high or low, whether the size is high or low, the results are pretty similar. They're pretty good, if the conversion rates hold true. Yeah.
And so my question is, so a large campaign, that's about, what, 16% that fill out the leads
Yeah.
after they click,
Yeah.
and then maybe about 12 or 13% from the medium size.
Yeah.
So how do you get that percentage up to get more people filling out the lead? Are they just tire kickers and they're just looking at things, or how do you get that up, the percentage?
So in a weird way, I don't care about the click-through rate,
Okay.
the conversion rate from that. This is the number I care about. Because,
Cost per lead.
yeah, I'm more optimizing for the cost per lead. Because if that, like I said, that cost per lead is $200, then I don't care, that number's too high, the cost per lead.
Okay.
I'm bidding $3 for all, Mark, it ranges, but for the word tour buses, I'm bidding $3. If you said, Mark, I need to cut my cost per lead in half, I'm bidding $1.50 for charter buses. I will get less leads, right? But that's okay because we have to bet our ROI. If you say, Mark, oh my God, these are converting like hotcakes. I want to spend $50. I'm raising my budget my bid to $6. Here's what happens though. If I'm in position 2 and I raise my position to 1, I don't need to spend really $6. If you said, look, right? So there's a point where it doesn't make sense to raise the bids. They started out capped on their budget. We started out with $1,000 as a test. Then we went to $2,500. Still, we're capping out. Now we're at 10 grand.
Well, for just these 3 months.
For these 3 months, right? So we're going to spend 30 grand over the next 3 months.
Keep that pace for sure. but
So my
it's
point is,
showing.
I may,
It's showing.
to her point, I may not need to spend that high. So I'm more concerned with this.
Okay.
Right? Conversion rate from click to form is not going to vary that much because it's the same site. Curtis' site is the same form as your site and everybody else's site, whatever. Conversion rate from form lead to sale is the money, right? So
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about this before is why aren't they converting? And if it's a budget issue, it might be availability, it might be a lot of reasons, but really that's the metric you want to focus on because if you say, listen, these are converting better now, then let's turn on that.
Well, and that's why the little notes on the lead information are important to us too, so that we can find out the conversion ratio. We're not finding the conversion ratios.
From lead
And
to
we're-
sale?
Yes, and we're not finding out also maybe if it, even on the notes, if it could be indicated it was, equipment not available or things like that, so
Right.
that we know how to market these different items as a whole.
And the other thing too to keep in mind, you guys, is that the ticketing part, right, we have just only a couple of people that sell a lot of bus tickets. So the search engine is bringing them to Trailways.com, which has the ability to buy a bus ticket and charter. So you don't have the bus ticket obviously data because that goes to Webster.
Yeah, this is all charter bus leads.
Right, right. So I just wanted to keep that, you know, everybody keep that in
So
mind, that we're getting both of them.
So the 7,000 hits a day that our site is getting, that's primarily ticketing and just general, it's just this 6,000 over the course of time is actually going into the charter
Correct.
and filling out the lead.
These people typed in something with the word charter
Okay.
bus, rental or Merced or whatever those things are, went to the website, filled out the form, the charter bus. This is just a portion of your overall charter. So again, large, medium, small, so you can get this to work. Real quick, there's a program, if you're not sure if you want to do this or you want to test this, there's a program through corporate, whereas you can put in, $100, $150 to test it for a month, and that's kind of where they started, is just to see if it works. There's no fee, it's just you put in the ad spend, we get it run, we get you some data, and then you can decide if you want to move on to a larger or medium-sized campaign. That's what Curtis did a couple of years ago, that's what Sun Travel has done now, Fullington's doing a little bit, testing some Penn State stuff. So once you kind of test this, and then you can decide, hey, I want to turn up the dials, or I want to try new things, and all those kind of things. All right. Any questions on that? Make sense?
You asked about the difference between phone calls and the form leads. So you're talking about phone calls generated from the Trailways site. How do you guys know? You just ask them, hey, how did you hear about us? And somebody's calling from Trailways versus just calling into the office.
Yeah, usually.
No, if they just say online, kind of a vague answer, keep prying and pushing, so.
Right, there's some blurred lines
Right,
in there.
exactly.
You don't want, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to get them to convert. You don't be like, well, what keyword did you type in?
Well, I really don't think we're asking the phone call people how they heard about us. We have source online and for, coach, but not really the phone calls. That's why when you give me that conversion rate, I'm thinking, I don't know if we really know.
Yeah, it might be worth just saying it. And again, she's right, don't press them, because a lot of people say, I found you on the internet. Okay. Well, okay, if you find your names list or whatever the case may be. But I think, some will get specific. Oh, I Googled you. It's easy for, even if they Binged you or Yahooed you, they're not verbs, but they still kind of collect that all in one thing. You Googled you. And then you'll know. So one thing I want to talk a little bit about, and it was funny, I got different answers in the last session, is when do you spend this money? Because there's certain times of the year that are better than others. Whereas the people from New York were saying, well, this is a great time because people are taking charter buses into New York. Where the people, I forget where Express was, but their area was dead in this time of year, and it's better in the summer. So here's some examples that I see here. This is the United States, and it's tough to see, but there's some peaks and valleys, and then they're a little bit different in New York, and then they're really different in Alabama, right? So again, this can vary. This is just a small sample size, but my point is you don't have to spend the same amount of money every month. You can change your budget based on time of the year. You can change your budget based on availability. Curtis is another example where sometimes he doesn't have enough drivers, so he has to turn things down and turn things back up. So whatever your challenge is or whatever your season is, my point is you're not locked in stone. The way this works is you say to me, Mark, I'm going to spend $300. Let's just use that as an example. I don't go into Google and say, here's $300, spend it as fast as you can. I go into Google and say, here's $300, I want to set it at $10 per day. So every day you have $10 to spend. If the cost per click is $1, and that day you get 10 clicks by 4 o'clock, then you shut off, and then the next day you start over again. But you won't run out with $300 in the first 3 days. So it's paced throughout the day, paced throughout the month, but certain times of the day you might be on and off. If you don't spend all $10 that day, then the next day the extra $2 or $3, whatever, rolls over, and by the end of the month you spend $300. So my point is, every day or every month, you may not have to want to send the same budget based on your seasonality, budget, all those different things. Hey, we're trying a new marketing effort, we want to turn things down, turn things up. A lot of times people say, hey, we're doing a commercial, we want to turn it up during this time, things like that. So you have those kinds of options.
Mark, quick question. So have you gotten a handle on when you want to spend to generate charters in a particular future month or season? How much of a window ahead of time you want to do that?
You could just, if you know that answer,
yeah,
then you could tell me. If you say, what is that answer, then I have to see some data. So if Curtis asks me, when's our best time, I can go back and look at that and say, hey, this is your best month, this is your worst month as far as volume. If you say to me, you come on brand new and say, Mark, I know November, Thanksgiving's our best time of the year. I want to spend $1 million in November and $10 in December because you know your market, then we can do that. So some of it could be coming from you and some of it could be coming from actual data. If you come to me new, I can give you some estimates, but it may vary. This is a whole state. You know, Birmingham may be different from Mobile and things like that. So it really depends on, you know, what you see.
I guess where I was going was when you're spending the money to get your placement, and you're getting the clicks through, you're closing leads and all that, there's a window of time before those charters are gonna go, on average, right?
So like, if we're busy this time of year, let's say I can't get any buses to move in June, and I
Okay.
want to sell for June.
Right.
So should I be marketing for June and March?
No, oh, I see what you're saying. No, this is instantaneous.
Okay.
Because this is that very
Okay.
specific day. I can't tell you what, if someone types in charter buses, I don't know if they're looking to book next December or tomorrow. That I don't know.
It does vary, but I think industry-wide, you know, that window is much shorter. So you could maybe do April. I mean, I'm shocked. I hear a lot of people saying that. Whereas it used to be a 5-6 month window, it could be as little as 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're not.
A day before.
Cut
Yeah,
that out,
I was
right?
just gonna say
But
the
when-
day
once
before.
Yeah,
Once
Wednesday
Mark
through
has the
Saturday.
data, he'll go by how busy the site is and where people are clicking.
Right.
So, and the traffic's higher in X number of months, not when the charter takes place, but whenever they're looking.
So you bring up a great point, because I work with Pinehurst Golf Course, you know, down there, and those guys are all booking now, in spring. Right, but they're booking now. So his ads, and that may be the way to do it, his ads right now say, book for the spring and save $400, right? So you may say, book charter buses for the new school year, I don't know, whatever, and then you can do some ad copy that way. Yeah, I won't know that, but the intent of the search, I don't know if it's tomorrow, or like I need a bus, you know, in 30 minutes, or if I need a bus in 30 days. I don't, because they type in charter bus rentals.
Book January and you'll get a discount.
Right, right. Well, the painters do that all the time, paint before the holidays. You know, our crews are less busy now because it's the winter. Paint now and we'll give you a discount. So, you know, conversations, you can get creative on how you want to spin it. But I don't know when they're looking for, unfortunately.
And then keeping in mind, of course, y'all, with under the Trailways umbrella, our goal is to just get the energy in that brand as much as possible, because maybe somebody charters buses periodically, but we want them to think of Trailways first, right? And so that's what we're trying to do on that national basis.
I will say, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit in my whole 13 slides. But when you guys do branding, anybody, not just say you guys, any company we work with does branding, radio, TV, whatever, search traffic goes up, right? Because people type in charter buses and they see, oh, I heard of Trailways, I heard this, and when they see Joe's charter bus. Did I do the Nike example in this thing? Okay, so I get confused. But anyway, so my point is, yeah, you guys benefit me from the search when you do that kind of stuff. Okay, before I dive into analytics for the whole entire site, any questions on the paid portion, the paid search, any of this kind of stuff? This all makes sense and you're seeing the results. And so just, you know, if you guys are interested in doing this as a test, I want to send out the form to these guys again. So Fullerton has already done it, Aries is on there, V doesn't need it, but whoever else is left can get the little form you fill out. Then you just tell us your budget, we set up a campaign, give us your zip code or radii or whatever that is, and we can do that for you, okay? Okay, what's also nice about the websites, and does anybody use Google Analytics? One? Anybody else use it? So Google Analytics is free, right? It's something you put on your site that's free. That you can get all kinds of data on what people are doing on your site. You guys have this on video, we send this to you. But you could see, in this particular, I actually think this is video for January, that's January. They had 738 people come to their website, and we can tell them how many came from their organic search, the listings below, the maps, all that stuff, how many people came from paid search, how many people came directly, they typed in via Trailways and went directly to the website, or if they came from another site, you know, Yelp or Yellow Pages and things like that, or if they're doing unique social. Not only can we tell you how many people came, but how many people filled out the form, which channels through those forms, so 74 people filled out the form, how long they spent on the site, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 3 to 4 pages per visit, 2 pages per visit, the average collectively. So we can see that organic has a really strong presence. They spend over 2 minutes on the site and they look at 3 or 4 pages. Paid search is still good, but they don't spend quite as long on time, which may be the nature of the beast. They're just quickly filling out the form. What your social traffic is doing, what areas they're coming from, what are the top pages on your site, did they come from a mobile device, all this stuff. I didn't put all this in the slides, but you can get so much data from this tool. It's a free tool. If you just go to google.com/analytics, it'll walk you through the whole process, setting up your code, and then you can give your code to whoever does your website, whether it's ACS or your web vendor or whatever, and just have them pop it on the code. Pop the code on, and all of a sudden you can see all this data for any given time frame. You want to chop it by week, day, month, all those kinds of things. So it's a free tool. I highly recommend it. But we send this to you and to all the clients we work with as far as people doing these things. But it's a nice tool to have. Okay, so I'm going to talk more about the organic listings now. We talked about the paid up here. We'll get to a little bit of the organic listings. As I said, you can target specific areas, right? So they're not targeting Santan Valley? Maybe, I don't know. But they are targeting, Scottsdale and Phoenix and Chandler and all these areas. So when we're setting up a campaign, you can target by a circle, which is radius. You can target by zip codes, which are those puzzle pieces, or by a city name, county, whatever it is, or a combination of those. So they may say, hey, we want all these counties, but a little circle would fill in. We still want Fountain Hills and all that stuff. So instead of giving me a whole list of zip codes, you can just say, hey, we target a 50-mile radius. Whatever the case may be, you can target so that people in that area are looking for charter buses to see. Here's the interesting thing about Google. Let's do a totally different example. I'm sitting here in Fairfax and I type in hotels. I'm going to see ads for hotels in Fairfax. If I'm sitting in Fairfax and I type in Los Angeles hotels, I'm going to see ads for Los Angeles hotels. Because Google is assuming that I'm looking for a hotel in Los Angeles, even though I'm not in Los Angeles. So that being said, if I'm sitting here and I'm planning a trip to Phoenix next month, and we're going to go to the football game and need a charter bus, I type in Phoenix charter bus, I'm going to see the Trailways ad. Even though they're not targeting me here in Fairfax or Philadelphia, but because my intent was there. So Google's pretty smart at figuring out what your intent is and doing it that way. So we tell them where we want to target, and if anybody's either looking in our area or if they're looking for services in our area from outside, we can get both, if that makes sense. So then, coming back to this, we used the example, I think it was Tempe, where we had pages for each area. So this is what I'm talking about. We have a page for Manatee and a page for Modesto and Turlock and Atwater. So anytime someone types in Fresno or Los Banos or Atwater charter buses, we want these pages to show up, not the home page. If we try to put all these keywords on one page, Google's going to be like, no, we're not going to show this page for every single town. You have to kind of break that individually so that we do that. But it's not always just about the towns. So here's an interesting one we did for VIA where it's Disneyland charter buses. So if someone types in charter bus Disneyland, we have a page specifically for Disneyland to help us show up for that search. Whether it's the Philadelphia Zoo, whether it's the Arizona Cardinals game, whether it's the Smithsonian, whatever it is, whatever your top destinations are, not locations in it, we want to make content for that as well. So it's a dual thing. We want to reach people who are looking for a specific city or name. We want to look for people who are specifically looking for a specific trip, a trip to the museum, destination, that's what we're looking for. So here's what's that?
That's part of the 4 Ps.
Yeah, part of the 4 Ps. So here's a perfect example we did for the main site. There's a million casinos, right? There's Borgata, there's the Trump Plaza, all these different things, and they do a lot of trips to casinos. People type in trips to casinos, things like that. So again, in this case, we have casino day tours. That information comes from a couple different things. That comes from the top destinations that we see people search for, but sometimes it comes from you. Hey, look, we do a lot of things to the Alabama college football game, so we want a page specifically for that, or a page for the Smithsonian. And if you see here, here's Atlantic City. Your other competitors are doing it as well. They have a casino page, they have an Atlantic City page, but we just do it with a little bit of a different spin because we have our keywords in here and things like that, which is probably why we're beating these guys, and these guys are probably more local. But my point is you can target a lot of different destinations as well as different cities, if that makes sense, all right? And you may not even know, like, where do people search for that? And we'll be able to tell you through some of our data, hey, a lot of people are looking for trips to Disneyland, so we may want to do that. So there's people looking for a destination or a spot where they want a charter bus. But there's also people who aren't sure and they're asking a lot of questions on Google. So they're asking questions, I'll use an example, is, are charter buses safe? So for VIA, we created this whole piece of content that says, yes, charter buses are safe, they're an extremely safe way of traveling. And what happens is because Google likes our answer to that question so much, they move this to the top with a picture, and actually it's called a featured snippet. So this is fairly new, and I'll show you one live example so you can see what I'm talking about. So before I even type in the word safe, oh, I'm missing the space here. Let me do it this way. Give me 1 second. So when I type in a search like our charter buses, we have a charter bus is safe, are they handicap accessible, how much a charter bus, people are asking questions. Before you even start typing, Google's saying, hey, you're probably going to answer one of these 3 questions. So guess what? We want to answer one of these 3 questions, right? So let's just do safe, for example. And let's do something different than what they trigger. Let's do charter. Here we go. Look at this is even better. Do charter buses have Wi-Fi, bathrooms, schools? You know, do charters? No, it's different. Let's go with buses real quick. There we go. Do charter buses have bathrooms, Wi-Fi, seatbelts, outlets, phone chargers, power outlets, USB ports? So all these things that people are asking. So if I just click on one of these, like Wi-Fi. Here's that feature snippet that Cardinal Buses is running on Wi-Fi as an example, right? So if they click on this, or they click on ours, or Charter Bus is safe, it takes them directly to a piece of content on the website. But here's where it gets more interesting. Scroll down here, not only do they tell you that, but here's your other questions people are asking about charter buses, and that's kind of what we saw in the drop down. Do they have Wi-Fi? How much does it cost? You know, do charter buses have phone chargers? And as I go down the rabbit hole here, if I click on one, you get the answer, and you get 2 more questions. You get the answer, and you get 3 more questions and things like that. These are all the top things that people are asking, and if you go down the bottom, here's even more questions. So my point is there's a ton of content that we're progressively adding to the site. Are they safe, and casino trips, and all these things that people are asking. So we're going to hit them a couple different ways. If they're looking for a charter bus rental, we got them. If they're looking for a charter bus a specific city, we got them. If they're looking for a charter bus to a destination, we got them. If they're asking questions about charter buses, we got them. So our point is to create all this content on the site to start to capture this. It's going to take forever, but that's what we get paid to do, to create this over and over and to drive traffic for more questions, more answers. And it doesn't always have to be what they're searching. You may say, hey, a lot of people are asking if our charter buses can carry more than 50 people, right? That's a question I get every single day. You may get on the phone, tell me, and we'll create a size capacity page or something like that. It doesn't always have to be, are the charter buses green or environment friendly and all those kinds of things. So these are just what people are typing in, but there could be a billion other questions. I'm sure the way you guys handle phone calls and on a daily basis in your experience, there's probably a ton of stuff people ask you that is probably worth content. So we want to hit them from every single angle we possibly can. Then there's content that's not on your website. So for this particular example, we wrote a piece on charter buses for your wedding day. Instead of putting that on our website, we decided to go pitch it to a wedding blog, so worldweddingguide.com. So we went to them and said, hey, we have this piece on charter buses for your wedding day, and they ate it up. Like, great, we'll take this piece and we'll put it on our blog on whatever date this was, and we'll share it with our viewers. So why is this good? This is good from a branding and awareness and getting yourself out there, reaching new audiences, engagement. You can share this on social media. So from a business perspective, it's good. For us, we have an ulterior motive of doing this. That little click right there goes back to your website, so it'll drive traffic to your website. But it's also an indicator to Google that we're an authoritative website, meaning we're putting content, people are sharing our content out on the internet. So if you have a website A that has a ton of mentions on the internet and website B that has no mentions, Google's always going to favor this for this keyword versus this one because this is more authoritative. They're sharing content, they're putting content out there, people are linking back to them. Whether it's your Chamber of Commerce linking back to you, whether it's your partnerships linking back to you, whether it's content linking back to you, the more times people are mentioning you and linking back to you on the internet, the higher your, quote, authority is by Google, the higher Google trusts you, and therefore will rank you higher for certain keywords. So you just put the word charter bus in your website and say, I want to be number one. Well, guess what? Everybody's doing that. You have to put the word charter bus on your website, of course, but then you have to go out and get yourself out there. So there's a couple of reasons we do that. One, for your benefit from a business perspective, but definitely from ours from an SEO perspective. So that being said, that was one, and then I think I have a live example right here that just went live not too long ago. And yeah, so here's one on a traveling guide, tips for traveling this summer. As I scroll down here, same thing, we have a link of, hey, if you're hiring, just trying to get you from this, from ride sharing to charter buses to hiring a driver, and things like that, and when you click on the charter bus, it goes back to Trailways. So we pitch a traveling blog of things to do in the summer, and then sends them, and then listen, you want to take a charter bus somewhere? Here we are right here. Make sense? So it's not just sharing the content on your website, but it's getting yourself out there as well. The internet's a popularity contest, so some of the stuff we have to do is easier said than done. We have to go write the content, pitch it, and find a home for it. Not everybody says yes, but that's part of the internet process.
So really, Mark, one thing we say all the time that we try to do for our members is there's so many vertical markets. And, if you're running a bus company, you're busy running a bus company, it's hard to hit all those verticals. So we need to talk with you about, like, sports trips, conventions, international tourism. I mean, we could do a whole lot more like that. Wedding. That's a very cool little feature.
Right, so it could be wedding, it could be casinos, it could be, like I said, sports, there's a lot of that. And we're doing some of that, Disneyland, amusement parks and stuff like that. I mean, it's a hard process, but man, it works, right? Like you said, so that's kind of the point.
So you have to contact the people who are responsible for that
Yeah,
blog or that
it's
site?
basically
to get
PR. I own a PR company, so I hand the PR company, they're in my office, it's like, we're all integrated, but I hand them a piece of content, say, go pitch it somewhere, they will say, here's what people writing about weddings, and then accept content. And they go, hey, Diane, can you go pitch this, or hey, Joe, can we put this on your website, or that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a lot of manual work, and this is why SEO is a monthly thing, not a one and done, because there's a lot of manual work behind this, but the work in the long run pays off, and that's why when you go back and look at that data that we showed you, as far as the organic traffic and things like that, that's why it works. Right? So it's a big puzzle. Okay. Before I go into some other things like remarketing, any questions on search itself, paid search, organic, or anything like that before I touch on this? Okay. Some of you might be familiar with this. They're creepy ads, stalker ads. We like to call them remarketing ads or retargeting ads. But long story short is someone's been to Via Trailways' website, right? These ads will follow you around for the next 15, 30, 1, 200 days, whatever we set as the goal. We can cap it at certain levels and things like that, but we're going to follow them around for a certain period of time with these ads, so that you're top of mind and things like that.
So it's you, it's not Big Brother.
It's me.
Mark, Big Brother has a name, Mark.
So there's a love-hate relationship with these ads. People who get them hate them. So they say, I can't, and we've had people actually call the office and complain about getting it. Why is my ad showing so many times? Blah, blah, blah. They work. Because what happens is okay, these ads showed 12,000 times. That's insane. But you know what? 39 people came back. So for whatever reason, they've been to the site, and they've come back again, maybe to repurchase whatever. And I'll be honest with you, I've done it. I've seen, whatever, whether it's a fishing rod, comic books, or a hoodie, whatever. If I see something like that I may go back. Now, on the sales side, like the e-commerce side, you can give them ads and say, hey, listen, 5% off your next purchase, free shipping, all that stuff. A little bit harder to do on something as big as a charter bus, but my point is, at least you're top of mind, because if you're selling software or a charter bus, whatever, you're top of mind. So if they went to you and said their charter bus is safe, they go to your page and they're in the market for a charter bus at some point. Then later on, when they're thinking about it more closely, oh, that's the company, and they see their ad on CNBC or fantasyfootball.com, wherever they decide to go. So I think there's value in it, but here's the best part about it. Our ads were shown 12,000 times. You think that would cost a crap ton of money? Nope, it costs $30. Right? Because you're only paying for the people who actually click back. I don't care about the other, 11,000 or 12,500 people, whatever that math is. I only care about the 39 people who came back, and they're the people who get charged for. So $31 for your ad to be shown. If you remember this cost people. What's that?
Those creepy VS.
Yeah, right. So if you recall in our slide for Via, let's just go back to it real quick. For Via Trailways on that given month, they had 738 people come to their website total, and we hit them. 39 of those came back after seeing that. But look at the cost per click. For someone typing charter bus, we paid almost $5 for them to come to our website. Now we're paying 79 cents for them to come back and possibly do it again. So that's why it makes sense. And like I said, is it creepy? Sure. Is it a lot? Is it overkill? Maybe. But for $30, why not? Right? For $50 a month.
Right.
Again, we have people. I have a furniture guy who will never ever do it, and I have other furniture guys who love it. So it's your preference, but I recommend doing it. Any questions on the creepiness?
Mark, can you split out the creepiness? You don't ever know somebody, well, no, you would know if they clicked on the ticketing side.
They're excluded.
They are excluded.
Right, so they get to the conversion rate, they exclude, these are people who didn't make the purchase. Or didn't make fill out the form, I should say. So you can say, I want to show this ad to everybody except for this bin, and in this bin there's people who got to the got to the thank you page.
Okay, because yeah, when I got the creepy ad, I was looking at Gray Line of Vancouver, or Greyhound, and Greyhound owns Gray Line of Vancouver. And I didn't click on anything, but I got the creepy ad back. So I'm just wondering if Trailways, do we want to do a Trailways retargeting?
National.
Right.
Right now we're not, we could.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, but hold that thought for 1 second, is because there's also something new that you might have gotten hit with. And this is new, and I haven't really done a lot with it. We're just testing it for some of our wedding clients. It's called similar audiences. And the way it works is that if you go in your search and type in sofas, and then you type in bedroom furniture, Google knows you're in the market for bedroom furniture, right? So you go to type in sofas and you go to Joe's Furniture, and then you type in bedroom furniture and you go to Mark's Furniture. You, right, your thing might be Fairfax Furniture, but Google knows that this person is in the market for furniture. They'll show ads to you. Even though you didn't go to my Fairfax Furniture site, they'll show, it's called similar audience. So it's a little bit of a step below remarketing, they're called similar. So they know your intent, whether you're shopping for chess pieces or TVs, whatever. They say, if you're in the market for that, we're going to start showing you that. It's kind of new, it's even more creepy, that they know your history of your search and things like that, and we're trying to see, so far, I knock off wood, it's been okay as far as an ROI, but I don't want to recommend that to a lot of clients, so I have more data on it. But that might have happened to you. So you've been clicked on competitors so much that they may say they think you're in the market for a $1 because you're doing your due diligence. Yeah. Can't say for sure, but that's what I'm leaning. Okay. Any questions on remarketing? Sorry. Okay, so more questions on this one. Let's talk reviews. So the other thing we can do, and it's funny, this turned into a whole bigger conversation. So let me give you the slide first, and then we talk about where it evolved to the last thing. So the way it works is if you could take your customer list, give it to us, or you can do this yourself, and we can set this up for you. You email your customer list and says, hey, did you have a good experience with Trailways? Would you like to leave us a review? And it'll be like a 1 to 5. Let's say they pick a 2, 1, 2, or 3. Then, how you doing? Sorry, that's all right. They'll get an email that says, hey, thank you for your experience. Would you like to leave us some feedback? They will not see the screen. And they'll get a little text box that they can say, hey, I had a tough time, my bus was late, whatever the things are, and you get that. If they pick a 4 or 5, they get this screen next. Oh, great, thanks. Would you like to leave us a review? Because we don't want to give this screen to people who wouldn't give you a good review. We only want to give this, so it's a filter, right? So then, and I just use this example. It could be Yelp, it could be Google, it could be anything, Wedding Wire, whatever your industry is. But my point is, you could pick particular places that will link to your profile on Google. Okay. Here's the thing, and to be very honest with you. Let's say you send this to 1,000 people, and 900 or 90% are willing to give you a good review, and they get to this screen, they don't do it. Right? They'll hit the star button easily enough, but they're like, oh, I got to go to Google and actually write something up and things like that. So the return on this is very, 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 very small. But even if you get 1 a month, once to 12 a year, I mean, and then all of a sudden it starts out at 15, 20. So my point is, I'm not saying don't do it, but you have to understand that the people who actually take the effort, who aren't angry to fill it out, will do it, right? When someone's pissed, they'll go review all over the place. But we're not even letting them get to that screen.
Good.
Okay? And you could always cherry pick your list. I mean, so that was kind of where the slide was, but we got to talking during the session, and I said to someone, if I go rent a charter bus from you, right, and I take my trip to Smithsonian, and on 11/4, on November 4th, I took my trip. On November 5th, you should get an email saying, hey, how was your experience with Trailways? So it's something we're talking about, maybe we can build in, talk ahead. And then if they say it was awesome, boom. Right? So instead of doing this ourselves, it might be a way, we have to think about how to go through it and things like that and do it. But it might be a way of follow-up, because then you can follow too is, how was your trip? Loved it. Oh great, here's 5% off your next trip if you'd like to book with us again, or if you just want to purchase regular tickets, or whatever, and would you be more likely? So it's almost, we do this on the painting side, when as soon as the painting project's finished, hey Mrs. Smith, how was your experience with CertaPro painters? And they do the whole thing and they do it. So it doesn't make sense for you to do it the day after they book. It makes more sense to do it the day after they take the trip.
get
Right.
that return.
And then if you
Yeah.
had a bad experience and you don't
You don't
go
see
to
this.
screen,
Right.
you get the creepy ads, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that pisses me off more. Oh, yeah, today, that's another, I'm pissed off even more
Now
now.
they can, but hopefully by the time they do the trip, the creepy ads are gone, right? We can target it. But it might be something we could talk about doing as a phase two. It's almost like a thank you for your trip. Think of us in the future. Here's a promo code for anything you want to do, and would you like to leave us a review? Kind of thing. So it's something we can talk about.
So if somebody emails you a good review or sends a postcard or whatever they do,
Yeah, it's a shame. You put it on your website.
can you put it on your website?
Yeah, you can do that, but they need to, because here's what happens, you have to actually have a login for Yelp and Google. That's the problem, I shouldn't say the problem, that's the challenge with these sites, is that for you to leave a review on Angie's List or Yelp or Google or any of them, you have to have a Google login, a Yelp login, things like that, right? And it's always hard. We've had some people go as far as calling the people, that's a lot of work. Like, you know, the insurance people are big on this, they'll, after you get your quote or your package, they'll go and call you and say, hey, would you like to give us a review? Yeah, I guess. All right, here's how you do it, right? And they'll walk through the phone, but that's a lot of work. So,
So Mark, I mean, it's kind of in line in the review world. What value do testimonials have in the digital world?
on site or on the review site? On site, everybody has good reviews. No one's going to put a bad review on their site, right? So you have to have them.
Is it kind of just?
Yeah, you know. But if some, but when you, well, look at Amazon. When you go buy something on Amazon or any other site, you know, Kohl's or whatever, I read the reviews. I do read the reviews. So I want the price. So I think in the e-commerce world it's very. But if I'm looking at taking it, and that's restaurants, right? I think that having good reviews on Joe's restaurant is man. Having good reviews on Yelp is very powerful, right? So. These probably have more power, maybe too much power to some degree. Because you hear these horror stories, you know, people leaving a bad review, let's give you my meal for free, and all that kind of stuff. And you're always going to have the clients who are angry, and then, well, that's a good question. When you're looking at a product, and you see 200 good reviews and one bad review, how much weight do you give that bad review in your mind? Huh?
All of it.
See?
I don't.
You don't, you do. But there, and you
I
don't.
subconsciously, I know I do. I might
Yeah.
have,
Because there's two and I'm biased, but if I see 300 good reviews and 5 bad reviews, and all 300 are after the bad reviews, I know someone gamed that system. So I'm a little bit biased in that way too. So, but every time my point is, one good review is not as worth as one bad review. It's almost like 10 to 1, maybe 21, maybe 100 to 1, right?
But I look for patterns as well.
And patterns, and that's what I look for, right? You know, and things like that. So that's why on the site they're not as powerful as they are off the site, you know. Except for when it's like they're on the site, they're like Amazon where they're already doing it. But Amazon even truly the third party because they're not the manufacturers of the product. So that being said, I think reviews are important. You know, here's what happens. You know, let's say you have no reviews and you get one bad one. Well, then it's really glaring. Now you're like going to scramble to go get. So my point is to be proactive, and you get 15 good reviews and there's one bad one in the mix. It doesn't hurt as much as this one all by itself. So it's something to think about. Look, this is software that we can do for you, or you can just send the email yourself. I'm not saying you can't do it yourself. I'm just giving you kind of the options. Right?
So when you're talking about the screening of 1, 2, and 3 versus 4 and 5, that's on our sites, not these?
No, this is through the. So they'll get. You'll actually sound like you'll get an email. I'll get an email and say, hey Mark, how was your experience with Trailways? Could you give us a review? And I can click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
And if I click 1, 2, or 3, or if you made 1, 3, but 1, 2, or 3, I won't see the screen. I'll say, oh, really? What was, you know, what happened? You know, give us some feedback. And now it emailed directly to you or whoever sent the email.
So that's the direct email of people who
Right.
actually serve.
Right, it's down.
Now, other people can go on this by themselves.
And they can do it by themselves.
We have a Yelp review, you know, a bad one that is on there, and not nobody that we email, so people can actually access themselves and just post reviews on these.
So let's use that example. How many previous customers you have in the last November, last 6 months? They had their email addresses. A lot. It's like 500. It's like 5,000. It's like 50. Get a guess.
So previous, maybe like 300, 400.
Let's call it 300. Okay. So you can email those 300 people. Get rid of these 3 listings and just have this. They can click 1, 2, or 3, or 4 or 5. They click 4 or 5. They'll get this screen, but it'll only have Yelp as the only option. Now think about that. You have 300 people. Let's say 200 are willing to give you a good review. Right? They click 4 or 5. Now you're down to 200. Out of those 200, how many people have actually Yelp account? Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 10. And then how many are going to do it? Maybe 1 or 2, but it's 1 or more 2 that you both got. You're like, you're kind of targeting. It's not easy. It's not a challenge. That's why this was the last slide. You know, but maybe we can do something on from a corporate side, like a closure email or something like that.
I don't know, we have another organization that's responded, I know we didn't respond to that, and I don't even know how that works, I don't know if Chris is doing it, or, I don't know.
No, and I can talk to you guys, I mean, Katie's your rep, and she's gonna send her email to kind of get acquainted and everything, that we'll copy you on as well, but there, you should have a login and password. It may be unclaimed, so you're allowed, there's no one, Yelp will create listings and tell you to claim them. Right? And so does Google, because Google's famous for doing that, right? So that being point is first to determine if it's claimed or unclaimed. If it's unclaimed, maybe you go claim it and then you respond to it as the owner, hey, this is a former employee trying to bash us, or hey, we're sorry, the driver was late, here's a, whatever how you ever want to respond.
And Yelp will call you every 3 days.
Yeah, Yelp ads are awful, by the way.
Awful.
And not only that,
They'll just consent on, hey, it's Katie from Yelp, I just called to talk to you about your ad.
right. And what I've heard, here's from me, is that if you do advertising, you can say, hey, I'll do advertising, you can pull that one down. So that's like the blackmail. Yeah, exactly. They're very shady. I'm not a big fan of Yelp. But they're a necessary evil, especially in the food industry. Yeah, that's the problem, right? When you ever go to review a restaurant, what do?
So TripAdvisor would be one of those.
TripAdvisor for the wedding industry, Wedding Wire, the Nine, all the different things. There's like 130 or 140. Okay, that was it. That's my whole thing. I said I didn't have an hour. But you guys have any follow-up questions or anything? Anything you want to ask now or later? Good. All right. That's neat. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, Eva, I have a question for you. I know a lot of today and tomorrow is focused just on the charter sales, charter leads. In terms of the inner city